Okay, so last night was absolutely insane in terms of Switch 2 leaks. We had heard that this accessory manufacturer, Genki, was doing some sort of presentation at CES, and like while I understood what that meant, I still didn't think the floodgates would open in the way that they have. I mean, there's full like videos of them showing their mock-up of the Switch 2 on the show floor at CES and behind closed doors, and I mean, this is without a doubt our best look at the Switch 2 yet, and also it's just this is certainly the moment where Nintendo really starts paying attention, in my opinion. A lot of people are saying, like, oh, they're gonna move up the reveal because of the leaks that we had around Christmas time, right? And certainly, maybe they think about it. But ultimately, I didn't think, like, okay, they're actually gonna do something about this. This is the first time that the Switch 2 has been shown in a major way to people outside of our bubble, the people watching my videos. This was shown at a major tech event, and they're calling it the Switch 2. And that's weird. So Nintendo is certainly on fire right now internally. I'm sure Nintendo of America, in Japan, their main headquarters, in Europe, like all of these different branches are certainly discussing what is happening and whether or not they will change the actual reveal timing of this console because of it. I think that still is unlikely, but they're definitely looking at all of this and just thinking to themselves, well, damn. Alrighty, folks, welcome back to the channel. My name is Botox Games, and we have to talk about it. The Switch 2 leaks have gotten out of hand. I don't think it's just within our little Nintendo circle anymore. This is getting like mainstream attention now because of Genki showing it at CES yesterday. So to catch you all up, yesterday CES happened. This is a annual huge trade show for consumer electronics, and as part of that, Genki, this accessory manufacturer, went off the deep end and just started showing these like actual like really proper, well-made 3D mock-ups, better than anything we've really seen so far regarding the Switch 2. This video in particular really showing off what this thing is, and even the dock design as well, bit of the logo on front of the dock, the magnets connecting to the Switch, our first look at that really in motion and how the locking mechanism works with that new big button on the back. On the current Switch, it's a pretty small little button you press. On this, it's a lot bigger on the Joy-Con, and I mean, this is, I don't know what they're doing here. Obviously, they just want attention, but it does feel weird, and there's definitely a conversation to be had about whether or not Nintendo, like, is, like, okay with it. I've seen a lot of posts saying, like, oh, how can Genki do this? How are they getting away with it? That's because Genki is almost certainly not actually partnered with Nintendo. All of their mock-ups, their 3D printed Switch that they're showing at CES, like, this is all almost certainly made under the leak specs that we've known about for months. And maybe there's some information going around from all of the different accessory manufacturers, maybe one that actually is partnered with Nintendo, trickled some information down, that kind of thing. But yeah, Genki can't necessarily get in trouble with this because I would assume there is no NDA signed. However, when you're going to CES and saying this is the Switch 2, and they've also talked about the release date, we'll get into that in just a second, Nintendo's definitely going to like try to do something, I feel like, even if maybe they don't necessarily have the grounds to, for Genki to show up and really present the console for the first time to the public in this way. I'm sure Nintendo is not happy, but at the same time, Nintendo almost certainly was aware this would happen, right? Mass manufacturing started back in September. This would have been as part of their calculations of like, okay, well, if we're not going to announce it in 2024, this is a sacrifice we have to make. These leaks will start getting out. And, you know, now that we've seen all of this, I mean, we've really seen basically every angle and every aspect of the hardware itself. We still don't know what the C button does. Genki itself doesn't seem to know about that. But all that's really left is like the retail box and then the UI and stuff. And then of course, games, which is the most exciting parts. But in terms of the actual hardware itself, we know this thing in and out now, man. But yeah, I mean, there's tons of videos like this going around. I'm not sure if this was actually on the show floor, if it was behind closed doors, but they have brought a 3D printed mock-up of the Switch 2 with the magnetized Joy-Con, and they're just showing it off, man. And that is absolutely nutty. So to catch you all up on the situation, that is the gist of it. However, they were also talking to a journalist at CES, and supposedly, according to Numerama, this outlet Numerama was talking to them, and apparently Genki told them that the Switch 2 will launch in April. They don't know when it's getting announced, but they have been told apparently that it is launching in April. So now that is currently like what everybody's like hoping for is an April launch. I've been saying March. March is certainly a very quick turnaround, but if we're talking like April 10th, April 17th, somewhere in there, that is, I think that's a pretty reasonable amount of time to market this thing with where we're at, with how many leaks are happening, with how we know mass manufacturing started back in September. April, I feel like, is a pretty realistic time frame for this console. But yeah, reading through this Wario64 tweet, they say Genki, who makes gaming accessories for Switch and other hardware, claims the Switch 2 will launch in April. It also claims that their Switch 2 mockup is based on a real Switch 2. And that's kind of the tricky thing, right? I don't think this company has a connection to Nintendo. I truly do not believe that they do. Otherwise, there's no shot that they would have announced that they're going to have a CES presentation and they actually made it to CES with their bag of stuff to show off, right? Nintendo would have stopped it before it got there if they actually had a connection with Nintendo. So while they're saying it's based on a real Switch 2, maybe it's a leaked image they got of the Switch 2. Maybe it's just based on the specs that we've known about for a while, the dimensions. But this is it, man. This is the Switch 2. It's a not the best 3D mock-up. You can see the joysticks. Yeah, these aren't the highest quality. The buttons are just kind of blank. And this is a white variant. I know Next Handheld had said there would be a white SKU at launch. I'm not too sure if that will actually be the case here. But they're just showing this thing off. They're showing this video, and even in the 3D, like, nice rendered video they have the proper colors on the Joy-Con, even down to the design of the joysticks having the colors behind them that we've heard about. So, I mean, this is it, man. I saw a lot of people talking about this image in particular. Maybe this will be like the new Joy-Con grip that we see on the Switch 2. I think this is just something Genki made. I don't know if this will really actually be what we're looking at out of the box to connect your Joy-Con to. You can note on their 3D model, they actually have plus and minus buttons on the grip itself. I think this is just for display purposes so they can set it up, not have them fallen over. But I do wonder, like, how many people really use the Joy-Con grip? I guess I speak from a place of privilege in that I have a Pro controller, but I guess a lot of people probably do use the Joy-Con grip, especially on day one out of box. So I do wonder if they'll actually change the design of that at all, or if it'll still have kind of like that puppy dog look. Remember, everybody was making the Switch Joy-Con look like a puppy dog. I wonder if they'll do that again. There were also a ton of other accessories that leaked that, I mean, these kind of just look like what we're used to. A lot of them do have that new C button on there, as well as just other things that you would expect from a third-party controller. Here's wireless Joy-Con for in-Switch 2. I wonder, is that part of how they're able to get around it, right? They're calling it the in-Switch, not the Nintendo Switch. I'm not too sure, but here we have some like nice third-party Joy-Con. I mean, this is the type of stuff you see in stores. Here we have a Pro controller with that see-through design, as well as another look at the Pro controller here with the big old home button, different D-pad, some back triggers on there. So these are likely going to be available near launch. Neat. This one's funny because they're using this extremely old fan logo that was made. I mean, this is like a year old at this point. So some of these designs are probably old. We'll see if actually all of these even release. But I mean, for me, I'm going to be using the Joy-Con and the Switch 2 Pro controller on day one. I'm not going to be messing around with all of these these accessories because, like, I don't know, man. I'm sure they're fine. I kind of like the look of this one. Not necessarily because of the color scheme, although I think that actually does look kind of nice. Very Xboxy in that the D-pad here is, I mean, this is the Xbox Elite D-pad, 100%. Like, that is what this is. And, I mean, yeah, like, the D-pad on this one, it's just a regular D-pad. If you have held a Series X controller, you know that this D-pad actually goes kind of hard. I'm not sure if it's great for, like, fighting games or anything, but if you're just, like, playing a game casually, the Xbox Series X Elite controller, I guess it's just on all the Xbox controllers now, this D-pad's pretty good. At least I like it. It's comfortable, I should say. I'm not sure if it's actually that great for inputs. It's certainly better than the Switch Pro controller, though. That thing is mushy as heck. But I do quite enjoy this D-pad. Although the Series X controller, or at least the Elite controller, you can actually swap it out, I believe, for a more proper D-pad. We also had this pop up on Amazon Japan. I mean, guys, we're at the point where accessories are popping up for sale on Amazon. It's not on like a random accessory manufacturer's website. I mean, they're actually on Amazon now, at least in Japan. I believe this had a date at one point, but it looks like that is not there anymore, because if you look down here on the page, it says the first date available is December 20th. I'm pretty sure when this first popped up, it was saying like March 19th or something, and everybody was like, oh, does that mean the Switch 2 is releasing that day? But yeah, we're getting accessories popping up on Amazon now, which is nuts. So yeah, last night was absolutely wild. The amount of coverage I was seeing the Switch 2 getting was definitely, that was definitely the most I've ever seen it in terms of like mainstream, like X Twitter accounts, you know, regular gaming accounts following it outside of our Nintendo bubble. And it is definitely at the point now where whether or not Nintendo will actually change the date of the reveal, I think that is unlikely, but it's definitely worth talking about, and this would certainly be the tipping point, I would say. If they were going to make any sort of change, right, even if it's only by a few days, this would be it, because like I said, The rumor is that there's a warehouse sitting on finished retail Switch 2 units in the retail boxes. You have to imagine Nintendo does not want that to leak. The hardware design itself, we know basically everything about it. We don't know what the C button does, but I mean, we're even finding out about the mouse gimmick that might be on this console with the laser on the Joy-Con on the inside. So we know about the hardware. I doubt Nintendo wants us to see the box, right? Because the box might have more information on it. And I doubt they want us to see the OS and the UI and stuff. I just feel like they gotta announce it soon, man. And even if they don't move it up because of all of this, I do feel like the escalation and leaks that we're getting every day, the amount that we're getting basically every day now, to me, it certainly, at least hopefully, indicates that we're very, very close within the next, I would say, 10 days or so. It's Wednesday right now. I was expecting a Xenoblade X trailer to drop this morning, and that did not happen. So maybe that's still happening tomorrow. And then next week is Donkey Kong. I didn't realize this. I'm sure at some point in the past I talked about it, but I guess the Switch was actually announced the day that Mario Party Star Rush came out. So whether or not a port of this old Wii game, like, does that really change their Switch 2 reveal plans? I'm not sure. I do think if they had planned for the Switch 2 to be announced next week from, like, January, was that like 12th through the 16th? If that was the plan all along, I don't really think that Donkey Kong would have been dated for that. But with all these leaks, maybe it was planned for like the 23rd or something, and they're going to move it up a week because of all the leaks. And, Donkey Kong, it's going to sell what it's going to sell. I would actually make the argument that maybe announcing it a couple days or even just before Donkey Kong releases would potentially help Donkey Kong, because there'd be so much renewed hype and interest in Nintendo from more casual players that, like, oh, Switch 2 is announced, I'm hyped for the Switch 2, oh, it's backwards compatible, yeah, I'll go in and buy this new Donkey Kong game that just came out, I know it's going to be on my Switch 2, because I bet for a lot of regular consumers, they don't even know the Switch 2 is going to be backwards compatible, right? That's not something that's really being telegraphed or marketed because the Switch 2 doesn't exist to them. So honestly, announcing it the same week, a couple days before Donkey Kong, I don't think that's going to overshadow Donkey Kong. If anything, I think it might actually help it, just because there'd be so much renewed hype in Nintendo. But there were a few other things I wanted to discuss quickly in this video. This happened just before I got on to record. The main Twitter account for Nintendo in Japan, they changed their banner to this, and people are losing their minds. People really reading into these banner changes. I mean, that's fair, I guess. I don't think we should really be looking at this image, though, and being like, oh, this means it's happening. I think it's just a kind of new year, new me type vibe. Although it does look like they're presenting something. Could we imagine a scenario where in a couple days or in a week or whatever, when this thing is announced, the Switch 2 logo is plopped on right here? Maybe. It is weird how they're conspicuously presenting a white void, but I don't know if we should really look too much into banner changes like this. I don't know if Nintendo would really tease in that way. I think they would just tweet it out, if anything. And then finally, to no one's surprise, we have Matsuyu Kana over on Twitter here, who data mined Pokemon Go, and thanks to Niantic, we now know with near certainty that there will be a Pokemon Presents on Pokemon Day. Not a surprise. There's been one every year since, like, I don't know, 2020, and even before that, we would get Pokemon Directs pretty regularly on Pokemon Day. But yeah, in the code for Pokemon Go, you can see Pokemon Presents Cross Go Tour Unova Time Research. So at the very least, we should be expecting a Pokemon Presents next month. Like I said, that goes without saying. We're all expecting that anyway. But also, is it worth noting that this is specifically for a Unova event? I mean, they did Sinnoh last year. This is just the way it goes. It's time for the Unova Time Research event to begin. Probably doesn't mean anything, but there was a rumor from, I believe it was the Pokemon Riddler, KHU. They were saying that they were teasing another Pokemon game would release this year, and then they kind of backpedaled and were like, oh, no, I didn't mean it's coming out this year, but maybe it'll be announced this year, maybe even for an early 2026 release. Could we see Pokemon Black and White remakes announced next month? I think it's possible, to be honest. It depends on when Legends ZA comes out, but with how much of a gap there's been, I would not be shocked if, let's say November we get Legends ZA, and then in like February or March we get another remake for Switch 1. I mean, I really don't think that's that impossible. The fact that we didn't get a game in 2023 or 2024 is shocking to me. And if Ilka's doing Black and White, I mean, at that point, that's 5 full years since BDSP. That would definitely give them time to cook. With how well those remakes sold, I would be very surprised. I would find it very weird if Game Freak and the Pokemon Company, like, if they didn't contract them to do another Pokemon remake with how well that remake did, even if, the hardcore fans don't necessarily love it. It'd be weird not to have them do another Pokemon thing when the Pokemon thing they made did so well, So all I'm saying is I will not be shocked if we see Pokemon Black and White on top of Legends ZA in about a month and a half's time. But that is going to do it for today's video. Let me know your thoughts on all of the Switch happenings in the comments down below. What do you think of all of the accessory leaks that happened over the past 24 hours? What do you think of the Nintendo banner change on the Japanese accounts? And what do you think of the near confirmation that there will be a Pokemon Presents in February? I would like to get a conversation going down below. Of course, subscribe here for more Nintendo Switch 2 speculation, theories, discussion, as well as any other Nintendo news. Although right now it's all eyes on Switch 2. I thought there would be a Xenoblade thing today. I really did. So maybe that'll happen tomorrow, in which case tomorrow I'll have a Xenoblade X video. But until next time, folks, peace.